So if you wake up at like 3 a.m. and you're just staring at the ceiling, right? And you absolutely cannot fall back asleep.
Oh, it's the worst feeling.
Literally the worst. Well, a modern sleep doctor is going to tell you that your suprachiasmatic nucleus is out of sync.
Right.
And their prescription. They will tell you to go outside and expose your eyes to the light at the exact minute of sunrise.
Exactly. Just natural light.
But, and here is the crazy part, thousands of years before we even had the vocabulary to describe, a nucleus or neurochemistry or circadian rhythms, ancient mystics were doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, they really were.
They were timing their most important daily rituals to the precise moment the sun broke the horizon. And they were calling it essentially the ultimate biological and spiritual life hack.
It completely upends how we tend to view historical texts, doesn't it? I mean, we usually look back at ancient, millennia-old religious rules and assume they are just, arbitrary behavioral controls from a pre-scientific era.
Right, like they're just guessing.
Exactly. We think of them as well-intentioned guesswork, but when you map these supposedly archaic restrictions onto what we are discovering right now, with modern brain scanners and hormonal assays, you realize we might have had the dynamic completely backwards.
Which is the core mission for this deep dive. Today we are looking at an incredibly insightful piece by Rabbi Shlomo Ezagui. It was originally posted on the Times of Israel blog and Arutz 7.
It's a fascinating read.
It really is. And we are going to explore the timeless, enduring quality of the Torah. Specifically, we're looking at how age-old Jewish prayer times map so perfectly onto the cutting-edge science of circadian rhythms and cellular health that it almost reads like an operator's manual for the human body.
That's a great way to put it.
So, okay, let's unpack this. We have to start at the literal beginning of the day, before the sun even comes up. The text introduces the concept of the morning prayer, which is shacharit, and a highly specific practice called Vatikin.
Right, so Vatikin translates to men of old.
Men of old, okay.
Yeah, and it refers to a highly dedicated group who structure their entire morning around praying at Netzikah, which is the exact, precise moment of sunrise.
So not just, like, generally the morning.
No, we are not talking about a general morning window. We are talking about the literal millisecond the sun's rays physically break over the horizon.
Wow. I was trying to conceptualize the psychological difference between doing that and just waking up normally like those of us do.
Right.
And, waking up after the sun is already up, when the world is already loud, traffic is moving, your phone is buzzing, it feels like being tumbled by an ocean wave that is already broken.
You're just reacting at that point.
Exactly. You are entirely reactive. You're just getting tossed around by the white water of the day. But waking up before the sun and timing your deepest focus to that exact moment of sunrise, it's like a surfer paddling out in the dark and catching the wave just as it forms.
I love that. You're taking the reins of nature.
Yes, taking the reins.
You're moving from a passive state to a proactive partnership with the day. And you actually see this exact mindset perfectly captured by King David in the book of Psalms.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in Psalms 57.8 and 108.2. He doesn't just casually say, he is going to wake up at dawn. His whole philosophy is, I will awaken the dawn.
I will awaken the dawn. That is a massive flip in perspective.
It changes everything.
It's not the sun dragging him out of bed. His intentionality is so early and so eager that he is fundamentally claiming to wake the sun up.
Exactly. It's a deliberate act of anchoring consciousness in a divine awareness before the chaos of the world begins. The text refers to this as accepting the yoke of heaven before the world fully awakens.
So you establish your framework for reality before reality has a chance to impose its framework on you.
Perfectly said.
Which sounds incredibly inspiring. Awakening the dawn, surfing the wave of the day. It is great poetry. But I have a serious pushback here, and I know anyone listening who values their sleep is wondering the exact same thing.
Okay, let's hear it.
What is actually physically happening inside our bodies at that exact moment?
Yeah.
Because if this is just about getting light into your eyes, why can't I just sleep in until like 9:00 a.m., flip on a massively bright 10,000 lux ring light in my bedroom and get the exact same biological benefit?
Right. Why can't we just hack this with technology?
Yeah, Exactly.
It is the crucial biological question, and the doctors referenced in Rabbi Ezagui's analysis explain why that simply does not work. You absolutely cannot replicate this with artificial light.
Not at all.
Not at all. Natural dawn light has a highly unique, specific spectral composition. As the sun is just coming over the horizon, it passes through the thickest part of the Earth's atmosphere.
Oh, because of the angle.
Right, the angle.
Right.
And this filters out the harsher blue light and leaves a light that is incredibly rich in infrared and near ultraviolet wavelength.
So it's not the brightness or the intensity, it's the literal recipe or like the color spectrum of the light at that exact minute.
Exactly. Artificial lights, no matter how blindingly bright they are, simply do not output that reddish-golden spectral composition of natural morning sunlight.
Wow.
And those specific early rays act as invisible biological triggers. When that specific dawn light hits your retina, the photon travels down the optic nerve and sends a direct, hardwired message to a very specific cluster of cells in your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus.
The suprachiasmatic nucleus, the brain's master clock.
Yes. And what's fascinating here is that this master clock doesn't just gently nudge you awake, it effectively orchestrates a massive systemic neurochemical symphony.
A symphony.
Yeah, when that exact timing and spectrum of dawn light hits, it rapidly suppresses melatonin, which is the hormone that keeps you asleep.
Right, the sleep hormone.
And the suppression of melatonin is the domino that triggers a neurochemical cascade. It boosts serotonin, which lifts your mood and sharpens your focus. It stabilizes your immune system. It even sends signals to your gut to align your digestion and metabolic functions for the coming hours.
That is wild. It's literally like flipping the master breaker switch in a dark house. Suddenly the HVAC kicks on, the fridge starts humming, the Wi-Fi router boots up, like everything comes online in a perfect sequenced order.
That's a great analogy. And if you miss that specific morning light, you experience what neuroscientists call circadian drift.
Circadian drift.
Right. Your internal clock gets confused because it never got the master signal. This is what leads to chronic fatigue, inexplicable mood swings, and even metabolic issues. Your internal biology is physically out of sync with the planet's rotation.
So going back to that 3.0 a.m. insomnia phenomenon we talked about at the start,
Yeah.
the doctors in the text point out that waking up in the middle of the night and staring at the ceiling is often a textbook sign of circadian disruption. Your body just doesn't know what time it actually is.
Exactly.
And the fix isn't necessarily a pharmaceutical sleeping pill. The fix is often just getting 10 to 15 minutes of that natural infrared morning light the day before.
Because that morning light is the anchor. It tells the body precisely when to suppress melatonin, which simultaneously sets a biological timer for when that melatonin should naturally reemerge 14 or 15 hours later to give you restful sleep.
So it's all connected.
It's a perfectly calibrated biological loop. If you skip the morning anchor, the evening timer is broken.
Well, okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Science is proving that sunrise physically resets our biological hardwiring. But the mystical texts have been arguing for centuries that this exact same moment simultaneously resets our spiritual hardwiring.
Yes, the parallels are striking.
The Talmud calls this early dawn period an et ratzon, which translates to a time of favor.
Right, so the underlying idea in Kabbalah is that at sunrise, the gates of spiritual light and blessing physically begin to open. Those who align their prayer with this physical shift participate in a parallel spiritual renewal.
It's like syncing up.
Exactly. And the Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, taught something profound about this specific window of time. He said that in the early morning, before people start their daily routines, the air is literally free of the vapors of forbidden speech and worldly thoughts.
I love that concept of vapors. It paints such a vivid picture of what the day actually feels like.
It really does.
Because throughout the day, people are arguing, stressing over traffic, complaining about their bosses, gossiping. It creates this invisible, dense spiritual smog.
A smog, yeah.
So praying at dawn feels like pushing a massive, critical software update to a server at 5 a.m.
Right, before anyone is online.
Yes. You do it on a clean server before the network gets completely congested with everyone else's chaotic daily traffic.
Yeah.
Your data uploads instantly without any lag or interference.
That is spot on. The Kabbalists would say your prayer rises unimpeded because that chaotic traffic hasn't saturated the atmosphere yet. And this connects directly to a teaching from the Baal Shem Tov. He described the sun as a powerful warrior bringing immense necessary vitality to the earth.
Okay.
But he warned that once the sun is fully risen, the sheer radiance and heat of the day introduce forces of gevura.
Gevura.
Yes, in Kabbalistic terminology, gevura represents severity, strictness, or judgment.
That makes total sense when you think about the physical heat of the day. A midday sun is harsh. It's demanding. It beats down on you.
Exactly. So by praying at sunrise, right at that transition point, you are actively negating or sweetening those harsher energies before they have a chance to fully activate.
Oh, I see.
You attract divine compassion for the entire day by meeting the sun just as it arrives, rather than waiting until it is already dominating the sky and imposing its severity on the world.
So to structure this spiritual update, the source breaks down the morning prayer into a progression through the four worlds. And this isn't just like a list of mystical places. It's a very specific psychological climb you have to make.
It is a ladder of consciousness. Kabbalah describes the morning prayer as a deliberate ascent through four distinct spiritual dimensions. You start in Aziyah, the world of action.
Right. Think of Aziyah as the moment you first wake up. You're entirely focused on the physical. You're tying your shoes, feeling the cold floor, making your coffee. It's pure physical action.
From there, the prayer liturgy moves you into Yetzirah, the world of formation. This is where you begin to engage your emotional self.
Okay, the emotions.
Yeah. You move past just the physical actions and start stirring up feelings of awe or gratitude through the verses of praise. Then you ascend to Berea, the world of creation.
Which shifts from the heart to the mind, right? In Berea, you are engaging your intellect. You are contemplating the complexity of the universe, the deeper truths of the text. You are mentally grappling with the divine.
Exactly. Finally, you reach Atzilut, the world of emanation. At this peak during the silent standing prayer, you have entirely detached from your physical anxiety for the day. You are in a state of pure, unadulterated connection with the divine. And the brilliance of the Vatikin practice is that you are starting this intense internal climb at dawn, allowing your soul to rise through these worlds in perfect, synchronized harmony with nature's physical shift from darkness into light.
That's beautiful.
The Talmud actually states that achieving this synchronized ascent at sunrise provides a person with a shield of protection from harm throughout the entire day.
So we have this incredibly intense, perfectly aligned start to the day. The physical wave of infrared light and the spiritual wave of the four worlds both launch at dawn. But a rhythm naturally requires two beats, right?
It does.
What goes up must come down. If the morning is the start of this physiological and spiritual arc, what happens when we reach the exact opposite end of the spectrum? What happens at sunset?
Well, biologically, a massive systemic de-escalation begins. Just as the doctors analyze the unique spectrum of dawn light, they note a profound, necessary shift at sunset.
Okay.
As the sun goes down, that highly stimulating, harsh blue light from midday filters out. The environmental light shifts heavily back into the red and infrared spectrums.
Which is sending a completely different signal to that master breaker switch we talked about, the suprachiasmatic nucleus.
Exactly. It serves as a biochemical cue that the active, demanding part of the day is officially over.
Yep.
Unlike the morning light, which actively suppresses melatonin to wake you up, this specific sunset light acts as a natural primer. It signals the brain to begin manufacturing sleep hormones so they are ready to secrete the moment total darkness hits. It forces the body to transition from expenditure mode into repair and recovery mode.
So biologically, our core temperature is dropping. Our cells are preparing for repair. We are winding down. How does the Torah mirror this biological wind down? Because the source brings up the afternoon prayer, Mincha.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the mystical alignment at sunset is arguably just as profound as the sunrise. The text introduces the teachings of the Zohar and the Ari, Rabbi Isaac Luria.
Okay.
They explain that during sunset, the foundational energy of the day shifts. The morning sun symbolizes Chizd, which is divine kindness, expansion, and giving. But as the sun fades, that kindness retreats and the forces of Gevura, justice, strictness, and limitation begin to grow stronger in the world.
We really need to ground this concept of Devura because severity or judgment can sound a bit abstract.
It can, yeah.
Think about what 5:00 p.m. actually feels like for most people. You are exhausted. The workday has drained you. You are sitting in rush hour traffic, your patience is entirely gone, and you are highly prone to snapping at the person who cuts you off or snapping at your kids when you walk through the door.
That's a perfect example.
That That shortness of temper, that feeling of being squeezed, that is gevura. That is severity taking over as the day's energy dies.
And because of that growing severity, the soul faces a very specific spiritual challenge at sunset. It has to find a way to turn that impending judgment into mercy. The Kabbalists refer to this exact window of time at sunset as Rahava Dafa, which translates to the will of wills.
The will of wills. What is the actual mechanism there? How do you sweeten that 5:00 p.m. stress?
It is considered the ultimate golden hour for the soul. Physical light is fading, the stress of the day is peaking, but the spiritual light of favor is uniquely accessible.
Oh, wow.
By forcing yourself to stop everything, to pull over your car or step away from your desk and turn to God in the Mincha prayer precisely at this moment, the act becomes a radical expression of surrender.
You just stop fighting it.
Exactly. You are actively recognizing that all outcomes, both the expansive bright light of the morning and the approaching limiting dark of the night, stem from the exact same divine compassion.
So you are intentionally injecting gratitude into the most stressful part of the day.
Yes.
It's such a brilliant symmetry. Just as your physical body is utilizing that fading red light to prime itself for cellular recovery and physical repair, your soul is using that same fading light to engage in emotional and spiritual repair. You cool down the anger, you sweeten the judgment right before the dark hits.
It represents a complete, seamless integration of the external physical environment and the internal spiritual state. The inner light of the soul finds its strongest, most necessary voice, just as the outer world cools into twilight.
So what does this all mean for you? When we step back and synthesize everything Rabbi Ezagui laid out, the dawn light hitting the retina, the suprachiasmatic nucleus triggering serotonin, the mystical vapors of the morning, the psychological climb through the four worlds, and the golden hour of sunset.
There's a lot to take in.
It is. But what is the actual takeaway? The core realization here is that the Torah's ancient rules are not arbitrary, burdensome restrictions handed down by a distant deity just to test human obedience.
Not at all. They are timeless, enduring instructions. They are written by a creator who intimately and fundamentally understands the biological and spiritual mechanics of human beings. The rigid structure of these prayers, the incredibly precise timing of them, is perfectly aligned with the deepest order of the cosmos. Following these laws doesn't mean you are withdrawing from the real world into some cloistered religious bubble. It means you are putting yourself in direct, mathematically perfect harmony with the world.
It's not withdrawing at all. It's leaning into the absolute maximum. It's refusing to let the day just happen to you.
Exactly. Living by these texts is about stepping into the natural pulse of creation. It is about aligning your cells, your hormones, your mind, and your soul into one unified rhythm.
Taking the reins.
As the text suggests, it allows you to take the reins of nature. You avoid the unhealthy, modern paths of biological drift where your body doesn't know what time it is, and you avoid the spiritual disconnection of just surviving the daily grind.
It forces you to completely reevaluate the phrase ancient wisdom. It's not just a nice poetic sentiment. It is a literal blueprint for human thriving that has been sitting there for millennia.
Waiting for us to catch up.
Right. Which leaves me with a final thought, something I really want you to mull over today as you look at your own daily schedule. If our cellular biology, down to the exact microscopic wavelengths of light hitting our retinas to suppress our melatonin, is so intricately hardwired to match the precise timing of these ancient prayers,
Yeah.
what other supposedly outdated historical or religious traditions might secretly contain the ultimate biological life hacks, just waiting for modern science to finally catch up?